Hey everyone, welcome back to our first person shooter tutorial. In today's section we're going to be covering shooting mechanics using line trace, and we're also going to be amending some of the character's animation to make sure that the weapon is following the character's movement. Of course, I'll leave a link in the description and a card for any previous tutorials that we've done in case you want to go back and reference those ones. But with all that said, let's get on with today's tutorial. So the first thing we're going to do today is create a key binding for the shooting button that we're going to select. So we want to go to Edit and Project Settings, and in here you're looking for Input. You can either find that by searching for it on the top left or finding it on the drop down menu on the left side as well. Once you go into the Input menu, you'll see the first thing on the top, it says Bindings, and what you need to do here is click on the plus sign next to where it says action mappings, and we're going to create a new action which we are going to call fire weapon. And then when you click on the drop down menu underneath it, you'll see you've got loads of options here for different buttons and keys that you can create a key binding for. Of course, for today we're just going to keep it nice and simple, so we're going to go into the mouse and select left click. Okay, cool, so that's all set for now, and we're going to use that in a moment. Let's go back and go into the FPS weapon bundle folder and open up the weapon blueprint folder and open up the Rifle 1 blueprint actor that we've created previously. So this is where we're going to do most of our work today, and we're going to go to the Event Graph tab. And in here we are going to right click and create a new custom event. And let's name that event fire_weapon. Now, before we start creating the line trace for the rifle, what we're actually going to do is just go back to the character's blueprint folder and open up the character's blueprint and just make a couple of references that we're going to need before we start doing our line trace in the rifle actor. So the first thing we need to do here is get a reference to that input we've created earlier. So if you right click and type in fire weapon, that should give you the input, so we'll select that. And then going down and just having a quick look here, we need to have a reference for the rifle as well. So what we're going to do, we'll just make a gap in here and drag out from the return value, and let's promote that to a variable. And we'll get that connected through to the attach actor to component. Okay, awesome, and now we have a variable for the rifle. We can just drag that out and then drag out from the variable and type in fire weapon. Now this is the custom event that we've created, not the input, so don't get those two confused. So we'll connect that to the target, and then we'll drag out from where it says pressed, and that way when we press the button, which in that case will be the left click on the mouse, we'll then call out this custom event that we're about to work on and do the line trace for. Right then, let's go back to the rifle actor, drag out from the fire weapon custom event, and let's type in line trace. And the one you're looking for is called line trace by channel, so let's select that. Okay, so there's a step that I've actually done ahead of the tutorial just to make sure that it works, because it's a little bit complicated and I wanted to make sure that it will work for me before I can share it with everyone. So when we go back to the third person character blueprint, the spawn actor rifle 1 node by default will not have that camera variable for you to be able to connect something to it. So basically we want the line trace to be coming from the camera, not from the rifle actor itself. And to get that correctly, we need to connect the camera to the spawn actor rifle. But if I drag out the follow camera, by default you will not have where you can see there is a camera section or variable that you can connect the follow camera to. On your end, you should not be able to see that unless you are ahead of me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete everything that I've done and just quickly show you how I've managed to add that camera checkpoint to the spawn actor rifle 1 node, so we can be able to connect the follow camera to it. So on the left hand side, we want to add a new variable and we'll call that camera. And then on the top right, the variable type, let's search for camera component. And that is the variable that we need to select for the camera. Make sure to tick where it says instance editable, as well as expose on spawn, and let's compile that and save it. And then if you go back to the third person character, what you need to do here is right click on the spawn actor rifle 1 node and refresh, and that should then populate the camera variable on there. Once you see that, you can then go up to the follow camera and drag that to get it, and then we'll connect that to the camera variable on the node. And just in case I've done that step ahead of the tutorial as well, you also need to drag out from where it says owner and type in self and select the node get reference to self. Right, so going back to the rifle 1 actor, the first thing we want to do here is get reference to the camera and be able to connect that to the line trace's location and rotation. So what we're going to do is drag out from the camera and type in get world rotation. And then we'll drag out from the return value and promote that to a variable, and we'll call that cam location. And let's get that connected to the line trace by channel. And then for the rotation, we're gonna drag out from the camera again and type in get world rotation. Drag out from the return value, and again let's promote that to a variable and call it cam rotation. Right, so that was the starting coordinates for the camera location. We are now going to move on to do the end coordinates as well. So we're going to get the camera rotation variable, and we are going to drag out from this and type in get forward vector. Now this is where we're going to decide how much of a fall off our bullet's going to have. So if we drag out from the return value and look for a vector multiplied by float, you just put in the asterisk sign and that should be the top one, vector multiplied by float. And then from the bottom here, we'll drag out again and promote that to a variable to allow us to change the bullet fall off, and we'll actually call that variable bullet fall off. We need to compile and save it first before we set the parameters, and then once that's done we can go down and set it to, let's say, 5,000 for now. And now we're going to get the cam location variable, drag out from that, and this time we're looking for a vector plus vector. Select this, and what we need to do is connect the bullet fall off to it. That should look like this. Cool, so we're going to save that. Also make sure that you have trace complex checked. Next, we want to make sure that the bullet is not going to be hitting the character's mesh or the capsule component. So let's go back and drag out from where it says actors to ignore, expand utilities and array, and we're going to select make array. From here, just right click and type in get owner and select the get owner node. Then from the return value, we're going to connect that to the make array node. We're going to add a pin and drag out and type in self, and we need to get reference to self as well and select that node. Compile that and save it, and that is pretty much ready for us to test actually. So for us to be able to see what's going on, we are going to drag out and create a branch. Drag out from true and type in print string. And then back here, drag out from where it says out hit, and we are going to select break hit results. And the arrow on the bottom here, if you click on it to expand it, we're going to go down and find where it says hit actor. Drag out from this and type in get display name, and we're looking for the get display name node, and that will then connect into the print string, and that will allow us to see the name of any actor we're hitting basically. Okay, so let's go give that a quick test just to make sure it's working correctly. So I'm going to get a sphere, just make it a little bit bigger so we can see it. And then when I press play and press the left click on the mouse, as you can see here, it's registering saying sphere on the top, which means that the bullets are working correctly. Perfect. And you know what, we can actually see the line trace as well, so let's do that. So if we go back to the line trace by channel node, and where it says draw debug type, if you drop down menu and select persistent, and let's compile that and save it, that will actually allow us to see the line trace coming from the camera. So if I go back and start shooting, you can see we are drawing lines which represent our bullets, and it's all registering correctly, and you can see up there on the top left where it says the name of the actor as well. So that's all working perfect. Right, so I'm sure you've noticed by now that when I move the character, the camera is moving, but the weapon is not following the camera. So if I look up, for instance, you can see the line trace is going up, but the weapon is not actually looking in the same direction as the character. So that is what we're going to be working on next. Okay, so the way we're going to fix this is by adjusting some animations and adding some coding to our animation to make it work. The first thing we're going to do is, just to avoid confusion, we're going to go to the character, so the third person character, or whatever you've named it on your side, and look for the animation class that you've applied to it. So where it says anim class, you want to hit the magnification icon, which will then take you to your animation blueprint. Double click to open that up, and this is where we're going to do all the work to fix the animation for the weapon and make sure that it follows the camera and the character. So there are two parts to fix this. The first one is going to be in the event graph, and the second part will be in the animation graph. So let's start with the event graph. We're going to go here and we're going to add a new variable, and we'll call that anim flow. Click on it, and the variable type is going to be a rotator, so select rotator. But we're going to set that variable, and we need to create a sequence down here. So for the sequence, the then 0 will be connected to the anim flow variable, and the then 1 will be connected to the cast to character node. drag out from where it says Anim Flow on the variable, and we want to be looking for make a rotator. So we're going to select that node. On the X, we need a float divided by float. Then from the top, we're going to drag out and type in select float, and we need to select that node. Then from the A on the select float node, we need to drag out, and this time we're doing a float minus float. On the top here, we're going to type in 360, that's for a full rotation, like a full circle. And then on the bottom, we need to drag out and type in break rotator, and we're going to select that node. And this actually needs to be connected to the pitch, not the roll. So I'm just going to disconnect that. If you hold Alt and click on the line, it should disconnect it. And then drag out again and make sure it's connected to the Y axis, not the X. Also from the Y, we're going to drag out again, and we're looking for a float multiplied by float. Type in -1 on the bottom, and this will then be connected to the B section on the select float node. One last time, we're going to drag out from the Y, and this time we're looking for a float greater than or equal float. On the bottom here, let's type in 180. This will then be again connected to the select float node on the pick A section. And then the last thing we're going to do is go down and find where it says try get pawn owner. Drag out from the return value, and let's look for a node that's called get controller rotation, and we're going to select that, and this will then be connected to the break rotator node, so from the return value into where it says rotation, and that should complete our circuit. Compile that and save it, and then this part is all good to go. Right, okay, so the next part, as I mentioned, is going to be inside the Anim Graph section, so let's go there. Make some space between the two nodes because we are going to need it. And so the node that we're looking for here is called transform modify bone. So you can right click and type in transform bone, and that should come up. And we don't actually need a lot of sections on this node, so we're going to go to translation, drop down where it says exposed as a pin, and untick that. And we're going to do the same thing for the scale and also for the alpha. Perfect, so that is the node that we need to work with, and we need 3 of them, so let's duplicate 2 more, and they all need to be connected to each other as well, so let's get them all connected. And then the last one will be connected to the output, first one will be connected to the locomotion input. And this will automatically create 2 nodes to connect the transform bone to the locomotion and the output as well. Compile that and save it, which will actually give you an error, but you can ignore that for now because there are more changes that we need to make to those nodes first. So if you select one of the transform bone nodes and go to the right hand side, the first thing we're going to change is under rotation, where it says rotation mode. We're going to change that to add to existing, and we will have to do that for all 3. And then the second thing we need to do is assign a specific bone for each node to be able to modify. So we'll select each one, and then we'll go for the spine bones. So for the first one, we'll do spine 1, second one was spine 2, and the third one for spine 3. At that point, you can compile and save again, which will make that error disappear. And then the final thing we need to do here is get the Anim Flow variable that we've created previously, and that needs to be connected to all 3 nodes, so all 3 transform bone nodes. So let's get that all connected. To keep things organized as always, I would highly recommend that you would select everything and make a comment and just name it whatever you like. And let's compile and save one last time and go and give it a test. So as you can see, as I'm shooting straight forward, it's all good, but then when I start moving the mouse, the weapon and the character are following. So that looks really good now, and it looks more realistic to what we're trying to achieve. Where obviously when you're running with the character, the weapon will be sort of stowed away, and then once you stop, it will come up, and then when you move the mouse, it will be following the camera. Because the bullets are coming from the camera, it makes it look like it's, you know, shooting directly from the weapon. And obviously once we've added some particle effect to the weapon and some actual bullets coming from the weapon, it will make it a lot more realistic. And that will conclude today's tutorial. I hope it was nice and simple and you were able to follow along. I really do appreciate people helping each other in the comments as well, because I don't always have the time to be able to reply. The best advice that I can give you that always worked for me is to go back and retrace your steps. But as always, thank you so much for the engagement and the support for my channel. Until next time.